Good evening and welcome to the Baseball Ontario Around the Horn webinar tonight, talking practice planning with two of the most successful high school baseball coaches in North America. Between them, they have more than 1,000 wins in their career. Also with us, we have our back at the host table in front of the mic, guiding the discussion, Scott Robinson. Scott, as you know, is a high school teacher, former four-year player at the University of Maine, has coached the Ontario youth team, the best 16 and 17-year-olds in the province for 4 years, currently a travel team coach here in Ontario, as well as a high school coach. Scott, welcome back to the host table. Our first guest is an economics teacher and head baseball coach at a high school in Alabama, a left-handed relief pitcher during his playing days at Birmingham Southern. He's been a head coach for the past 13 years. He's also been involved in the USA Baseball 17U National Team Development Program as a member of their 17U Baseball Task Force. And this year, he is the pitching coach of the 15U USA Baseball National Team. Please welcome head coach of Hoover High School, Adam Moseley. Adam, welcome, buddy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Our next guest is the head baseball coach and assistant athletic director in Mississippi. He spent 24 years molding championship teams, amassing over 700 career wins. He has also spent 11 years as a college coach. He has received 12 Coach of the Year awards. The head coach at Hartfield Academy in Mississippi. Welcome, Chuck Box. Chuck, welcome to Baseball Ontario's Around the Horn.
Dirk, man, glad to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
And a real big thank you to both of you for turning this around on short notice and helping us out. And we're happy to have you with us to talk practice planning. So without further ado, take it away, Scott.
All right, thanks, Dirk. So I'm excited today, going over some practice planning, especially in our province that some of us have gotten to stage 2. So we're getting closer and closer to getting back on the field with our teams to practice. So how it's going to work is going to work like the last couple of weeks where we've had hitting people on last week, pitching people on 2 weeks ago. We're going to give them the floor for about 25 minutes. They're going to share their screen, share their intellect. And then once both are done, then we're going to shoot some questions, some from you, some that have already been formulated, and we'll get after it a little bit. So I'm excited for this. First up, we're going to go with Adam. He's going to talk to us about team practices and team practices based on kind of goal-oriented team practices from in-game performance. So I'm excited to hear about this. So Adam, floor is yours, man.
Thank you, Scott and Dirk. Thank you for having me. This is it's a neat thing. It's the first thing I've ever done in Canada. So I'm excited to have a chance to do it. I'll just go ahead and share my screen and then we'll get started. And so as I'm starting here, please make a list of questions. I would love for it to be a very back and forth type of deal. I know Chuck's the same way. We've kind of talked a little bit ahead of time, and we'd like to create a deal where you kind of I do a little bit of the maybe more global point of view, and then he's going to kind of knuckle down a little bit on maybe some individual practice plans and things like that. So to get started, I think, there's some big ideas and big questions that people have about practice plans and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to get accomplished and that sort of stuff. So just some of those I think are good for people to consider. The rage right now is that measurables are what win. And so, you have to figure out what do you measure. And I know there's going to be people on this call that have access to great technology and access to terrible technology. Okay. Or no technology, excuse me. And so I think the thing to understand is that whatever you do measure, it becomes motivation, and it also means that it matters. And so even if you're measuring attendance, or if you're measuring launch angle, if you reinforce that, that's what matters. And so I think hopefully we can kind of get into some things that do matter for you to measure. Development is the key of the game, or the name of the game, right? And so how do we develop people, and how do we develop teams and players and that sort of thing? And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. And the big issue though as a coach, especially if you're the head coach, is walking that fine line of making sure you're developing each player, but also developing your team at the same time. You can kind of get lost in one or the other. So I hope, between me and Chuck, we can kind of maybe give you some ideas both, some team development concepts and some player development concepts. And then planning wins. I think any good coach has a plan. Some, hopefully I'll share with you some practice plans that maybe will be helpful. And I know Chuck will as well, but you got to know what are we trying to put into our plan. Okay. And I would, maybe this is the most important thing. And I think, in talking to anybody that asks what we do, it's neat to know what we do. It's neat for both Chuck and I are visitors of other programs. We like to go visit, different places around the country or around the continent, et cetera. But you can't just go take it and what they do at Vanderbilt or Oregon or the Yankees and then put it in, you can't do it yourself. Like, you have to take a little here, a little there, and put it into what you do. And so hopefully we can give you an idea of how to do that. So first thing, I think you need to know your why. And you may think on a practice plan, like why is this being part of the discussion? I think if you don't know your why, your practice plan is not very good. Then you're just copying from somebody else. Right. So here at Hoover, to paint a picture for you, it's a school that's I guess you would say an upper middle class suburb, but we have a lot of different income levels. Okay. We have people that are very well off and people that are very poor. Okay. And so what we want to find a common ground on is when they come here, I want them to feel like their child, when the parent comes here, their child has been developed through relentless hard work and learning. And so I think, I don't know how everybody on the call feels about Conor McGregor, but I love this quote. I think it's as good as it gets. There's no talent here, and you go all the way down through there, and the last point is the most important point. I'm not talented, I'm obsessed, right? If you create players that are obsessed with getting better, then you've done your job. And so, people talk about culture and all that stuff. I know Chuck feels the same way. If I've got to tell you about our culture a lot, that means we don't really have it. It means I'm just kind of throwing stuff at you, right? When you come here, if you came here this morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, okay, when we've had practice and it's coming off 2 hot days, and you saw guys walking around, then you would have also seen them get in some pretty big trouble this morning, have to run a little bit extra because of how they were acting. Or how they were taking their practice. So like they weren't taking advantage of the day. And so I think you need to see that when somebody walks in the door, they should go, oh, these guys are this. And it's fun to ask people that too. If you want to know your culture, ask them when they leave to describe what they saw in one word. And if they just, whatever they describe in one word, boy, you hope that's something that mattered or that has mattered to you. So I would encourage anybody to paint this picture for your, whatever program you're involved in. We have a team chaplain who has, sorry, I clicked the wrong button there. A team chaplain who has gone through and he outlaid for us at his church the 4 stages of parenting. And so I took it and then we put it together with what does it mean to be in our program and the four basic phases of being a member of our baseball program at Hoover. And so I think if you can outline this for your players, whether you're a high school coach, an elementary, coach in Little League or whatever, how they come in and how they leave are important, right? So, we want them in their freshman year to learn what we do, how we do it, and why we're doing it, and the consequences for not doing it correctly. It's tough to be a freshman here, right? We want them sophomore year to know more about why, and then junior and senior years, I want it to be player owned. I want them to know, why they're doing what they're doing. I want them to really be involved in this thing and to grow it themselves so they can really, take advantage of and navigate this thing to the best of their ability. And then when they're an alumni, I want them to be living life together, with us. And we, you go tell all the old fun stories and all that kind of stuff. Well, you may look at this and go, why is this in a practice plan discussion? Well, I think you need to know these things for your program to know, what do you want to put into a practice plan? You may have a freshman on your team and a senior on your team, which we currently have, or we did, this year at Hoover. We had a freshman starting at shortstop, which doesn't happen very often. We had a senior at third base. Well, you've got the junior senior guy on this list who can then be coaching the freshmen through what goes on and what happens in a game and in a practice and that sort of thing. So I think if you outline this for your players, I think it's important. And then continuing on, a yearly calendar that we use, pretty simple. We want to develop like crazy. So we can't do as much in the off season. I don't know what the rules are where you are, but basically August through September, we can do skill development but I want to build the biggest engine possible. So I think you need to have that in your program plan, right? Whatever time of year is your most important year. So for most baseball people, it's the spring. Well, I don't know that you spend all of August through December working on first, third plays and bunt defenses and that stuff. I want to build the biggest engine, and I'll talk to you about how we do that a little bit. And I know Chuck's got in his player development plan. We lift a lot. We do a lot of speed and agility stuff. I'm just running through this real quick, just because I want to tell you what we do, but I also don't want to get stuck here. We really, really lift hard in the weight room. Our guys are really, really strong. That guy in the upper right-hand corner, that kid's going to Oregon to play quarterback and start in center field for him. And we have some rules, some things we want kids to be able to do that just truly we have seen reflected in performance. Okay, so this guy right here is doing a lateral sled drag. Okay, almost every good baseball player that's got a ton of power, that they're really good at this exercise. It's crazy. That's just the way it is. So build it into your weight room routine. Almost every good baseball player can really pull a lot of weight off the floor in a deadlift. That kid's pulling 400 pounds off the floor. And if you've never pulled 400 pounds off the floor, it's a big time sense of accomplishment when you do. You can see his teammates are there with him, excited for him. I think you need to teach them nutrition. So we do that. We talk about nutrition before practice and after practice, in season, and what are we trying to get accomplished in our nutrition scheme. So, these are all things I think that go into a practice plan, whether you've got a lot of money or no money at all. Let me go back to if you see the bottom left, if you want to teach a kid about nutrition, that is the logo for MyFitnessPal. It's a free app. You can scan with your phone every single food item that you buy at a store, just about, and almost anything that you want to eat. And you can keep a calorie count, a protein count, and all that stuff, and start practice asking guys, what'd you eat today? What's your calorie count today? What's your protein count today? Right? And make them keep track of it, and you'll see a direct correlation in practice between what they ate and how they perform. It's almost a guarantee. Okay, continue on building a bigger engine. So then we're going to spend 6 weeks in our off season. So that I did pitching and hitting, or throwing and hitting. Okay, 6 weeks of just long toss and what we call hitter sequencing, trying to teach the hitter's body to move the right way. So those practice plans are about that right there. Okay, let's long toss a bunch for throwers. Okay, and let's teach them how to move their body as a hitter. Simple as that. There's all kinds of drill schemes for it. I'm not going to get into that tonight, but I think that the sequencing of it, I feel really good about what we're doing. Okay, then we're going to spend 6 weeks with throwing velocity program and also a bat speed program at the same time, trying to teach your body to move fast. Okay, and again, you got to be able to kind of know your own research and what the tools you have. We can go into a lot of, if you don't have any tools at all, what we do here with that, or what we do with a lot of tools. We're lucky to have a lot of tools. Okay, almost all of this is external focus. So you're looking at most of the fall as external focused. Put a radar gun up there and tell them you threw it 80 miles an hour. I want the next one to be 81. And I swear they're going to organize their body to throw the ball 81 miles an hour. And it's just public peer pressure there, and use peer pressure in a positive way to benefit your program. Okay, so the exception to this, if we're trying to do this, if a guy's got a bad movement pattern, like his arm swing isn't right, or when he's hitting, there's something that's really bad, the health of the arm, we don't take them through this stuff. But if they're moving well, and most high school kids are, the fact of the matter is, what most high school kids need to do to get better is eat a lot more, sleep a lot more, and get in the weight room a lot more, and their performance gets better because of it. We try to make them the most athletic person we can in the off season. And every practice plan is about athleticism. Okay. And hey, Pilates, we do Pilates. How about that? We do a bunch of it actually, once or twice a week, and it'll change your program's life. Okay. Real quick to finish the yearly calendar, we do what's called refining the engine, January through the beginning of February. And that is simply when we are going through all of the different, just fine-tuning, getting ready to start the season, like a spring training type of a situation, because we start mid-February here. I know that's a foreign concept probably to you in Canada, that you would start in mid-February, but around here we can get rolling about February 20th and we can go. Okay, and so we go from a zoo to jungle, and that's just more of that's a different kind of terminology that I don't have a lot of time to get into, but basically what that means is that we go from controlled environments to we're getting them in uncontrolled environments and really forcing them to deal with failure. Okay, we approach every day like a training session and a practice, and then driving the car is the season. We still lift weights like crazy. Here's now, how do you know what you need to work on? So we have 4 major evaluations, and we're going to share these with the kids. Okay, 4. We have a tryout in August. The end of the first semester, we have an evaluation. The end of the summer, we have an evaluation. Okay, and then the end of the season, we have an evaluation. And at that point, the coaches get together and talk about here's where we're strong and here's where we're weak. And we do that with the players as well. We share it with them. And just as a side note, bring the parents in for those. Bring them in during your evaluations and tell them this is what I think little Johnny needs to get better at from our practices, and it'll change their life because they will realize, hey, he needs to get better at some things that maybe we haven't, that I didn't realize. Okay. Informal evaluations, we video a lot, and then we have them at practice all the time. We have Where You At Wednesdays, where we call them up, and we just talk to them. And we tell them, hey, this is where you stand. I stole that from my buddy Butch Chaffin, and that's a big deal. And I think he calls his Find Out Fridays, and so I wasn't going to copy exactly what he had, so we did Where You At Wednesdays. So here's a practice plan. It's an in-season deal, okay? So a couple things. This is what we're going to do is put it on Google Drive, or what I'm going to do, so this is maybe a way to set your scheme up for your coaches to all contribute. If you've got a Google Drive, just share the file on Google Drive, right? And then they can all put it in and put in what they want to do, okay? So this one, I did most of it, but you'll see some other practice plans. I'll have a hitting section and a pitching section, and I'll maybe leave the hitting section to somebody to fill in what they want to do that day. That's how we do it. Let them have input. Core values are what we talk about every day in a practice plan. I do believe you got to do that. If you don't talk about a core value of some kind, it's a very, very transactional relationship with your players, and that's not what you want. You want one that's transformational with your players, that you're changing their life in some form or fashion. So this day we talked about never walk past a mistake, and I remember the day because we were talking about Jerry Jones. There's probably not many Cowboy fans on here, and that's okay. Chuck, I think, is a Cowboy guy, so we're going to roll with that. But Jerry Jones is known for walking around Jerry World and picking up trash. If he sees trash, he puts it in the trash can. And he is worth billions of dollars. And if he can do it, why can't we do it? So players are going to walk past mistakes all the time in our facility, but we're trying to get them not to. So that was our talk for the day. And then we went into what we were doing. Okay. We involve all the leadership in planning a practice plan, and we go 10 minutes to get our program better with that culture meeting. Okay. So this is an idea, and I'm going to go into a hitting plan right here. So this is a cage day for us. Okay. So this is things we chart, and we're going to chart them every day. And I think, again, I told you measurement matters. It's motivation. So we're going to chart quality contact. We're going to chart their exit velocity at any number of these drills that we might be doing. Okay. And the execution of the drill. Okay. If you don't have a radar gun, great. Rate it 1 through 5, quality contact, exit velocity. You can tell if you hit it hard or not. Okay. And the execution of the drill, you know if you did it or not. So here's how it would work. This is one of our favorite things to do. So follow along with me for a second, because it's a little bit of a weird practice plan. But we would have 3 groups. They're in 3 different cages. Okay, it's called adjustability day. All right, so they go in there, and in one group, it's called squared up and switch. So you have 3 different kinds of bats in the cage. As soon as they hit that bat, hit a ball well with that bat, they drop it and pick up another one. You got a short bat, a regular size bat, and a big bat. Okay, and they have to learn how to control the barrel with all 3 of them. There's a coach just sitting there throwing it to them. They get squared up, go to the next one. Squared up, go to the next one. The goal is to go 1 pitch per at bat if you can. Then we got a machine throwing 3 plates, a 3-plate velocity drill. A lot of people have seen. You start in the front, go to the middle, go to the back, and then change up your orders. And then we got a machine throwing left-handed curveballs. Okay, so we'll go through it. We'll give everybody 10 minutes in those drills. Okay, then we will stop it. Okay, and there's a whistle in the room, and you start on a drill, and as soon as the whistle blows, you stop what you're doing and go to the next drill. Okay, we're trying to teach adjustability instead of just going in a cage and throwing some BP and going to the house. Okay, so that is I think it's really, really important that you understand, that you try to take cage days and make them more than just, throwing BP and going to the house. Okay, lots of guys will say, I went and hit 6 buckets in the cage. I hear that all the time. I went and hit 6 buckets. Great. If you didn't practice a different swing, then all you do is practice the same swing for 6 buckets. I don't know how much better you really actually got that day. Okay, so as that's going on, we're going to have a group doing throwing and bunting down the line. And so my thought was that, you know, you guys have got some cold weather issues. Knowing a good cage day is a important thing, and being able to get yourself ready to play. Okay, going to the next one, an on-field practice plan that we would use. Again, what I would do is I would put this plan out to start the day on our Google Drive, and then my coaches are going to come in and plug in what they want to do. So we're going to have, this is our hitting and throwing rotation. So we plot it out. Y'all, as soon as the players learn how to read it one time, they're good to go. And they start, if they don't see it, they think you haven't prepared them for the day. Okay, so what we've got there is we got kids that are, they all hit in the cage first, then they go to a live cage, and they hit on the field, then they get their arms ready. That's kind of how it worked. Okay, you divide them into groups. We hit for an hour and 15 minutes. Okay, so we call it 1 hour of skill, basically. That's kind of the rule. I want to go 3 hour practice, 1 hour of skill, 1 hour the whole team together. So you see this 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, the entire program. So I have 65 kids in my baseball program. They're all on the field at the exact same time, 3 teams worth. Okay, and I have 5 coaches for 65 kids. So it better be organized on the front end, right? But when we're doing that, if you set this up the right way and you teach seniors how to lead or older people how to lead, then they coach and they help you coach through what you're doing, right? So 1 hour in the cages, 1 hour, the whole program's out there together. And then we'd have, you see at the bottom, we're going to have the hour of, we're playing, that day was a BP game where we got an hour of team, of our varsity team, and then the younger teams went to the cages after that. But just to explain real quick what we did with that hour of the whole program together. So if you see 4 to 4:30, every infielder in our program is with our infield coach, and he's working whatever they might have been doing that day. Every outfielder is with our outfield coach. We have 2 fields. We're very lucky, so they go on the other field and they work on that. And it's fundamental work because you can't get away without doing fundamental work. Too many people want to do all the whole process first instead of doing the fundamental work. So we spend 30 minutes just fundamental, and that's one day we may have decided at the beginning of the season that, and I'll tell you, this past season, we were really, really, really bad going into the season at forehand ground balls. I don't know what it was, but our whole program was bad at it. So multiple times a week in this time frame, we would work on forehands, and we get really, really good at those. Okay, and outfielders would get good at the stuff they needed to work at. Then we brought the whole team together. You see, from 4:30 to 4:45, we're doing what's called a triangle drills. I learned this from Jared Halpert and Jeff Sherman. They kind of combined and showed me how to do this drill. But essentially what they're doing is we've got runners at first, runners at third, and guys at the plate, hitters at the plate. And it's varsity versus JV versus freshman, okay? And what you're doing is that it's a chance for you get a machine on the mound. The machine throws a ball every 10 seconds. And you throw a pitch with the machine. After the play is executed, the coach is automatically given another sign. They're ready to run another play, and you just start going as fast as you possibly can, trying to create chaos on the field so that when it gets to a game, they don't even have any idea what just hit them. The other team doesn't, because you're so prepared to do it. And in 15 minutes, when you rep through this so fast, you get so many reps, and the freshmen learn, okay, this is what those seniors do. The seniors get to execute against some younger guys. And you don't for one second think that doesn't matter. Just seeing it executed well is a very positive thing for them. Okay, so we go through that bunt defense, the triangle drill, okay, and then we did a cut and relay scheme right there where we had everybody teaching them how to get on and off the field. We did cuts and relays, showed them how cuts and relays worked. And then we played a process game, which I'm going to show you in a second. I'm going to try and fly through a couple of these so I don't go too long and make Chuck fall asleep over there. So went the wrong direction, didn't I? Okay. So infield fundamental progression, this is in everything that we do on our practice plans. Quite simply, every day we're doing 5 throws from these six drills, okay, or these 6 athletic moves. All right, and it's going to be lines of guys down the foul line or just off the foul line, okay? They're literally broken down into routine ground balls. Somebody rolls it to them. Again, fundamental work. Step through, make a throw. You go 5 of those. You go 5 backhands, forehand short hops, backhand short hops, and run-throughs every single day to where it's easy. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to warm up doing that instead of wasting time doing the whole play on the field. You've done this already down the line, and then you go on the infield, and it becomes a whole lot easier. Okay, so that's a daily fundamental progression we're doing with our guys. T-ball, if I could advocate any drill for anybody on a field, this is it. Okay, our outfielders are hitting balls off tees to infielders. It sounds like the simplest, most ridiculous drill of all time. Okay, they literally stand there on a tee and are smoking ground balls to infielders not as hard as they can, but they're hitting them hard. 5 situations, 10 plays each. Your whole infield is out there. So my whole varsity's out there. All the outfielders are hitting balls. Okay, nobody on, nobody out. Runner at first and second. Bases loaded, runner at third, game-winning run. And we go through all of those, and your job as a coach is staying out there behind your infielders and getting their ear a little bit. Talk to them. Turn up the heat on them. Get after them. If you're like me, you like to chew on some people a little bit, you get after them and chew on them right there. Okay, and the pressure that's put out on that drill, because if you don't get it done, we run. You have 50 great plays to make. You don't make 50 plays, we run for everyone you don't. Reward what you want to see out of your team. Like every ball that we hit that's hitting our program, you got somewhere to go and something to say. If it's not the loudest drill of the day, it's not going to turn out well for them at the end. Okay, we don't do that all the time, but at some point you got to put pressure on your guys, and that's a good one to do it. Okay, Vandy defense. This is just literally stolen from Vanderbilt, and I'll share this with anybody. Only thing we added to it. Okay, you're just going through rounds, and you've got guys hitting ground balls, and they're throwing to certain places. You got a PO receiving a ground ball. Like, so for example, round 2, the third baseman is throwing a ball to second base, and the PO just catches it, puts it in a bucket. If you're a young coach here, get a dad, tell him to stand out there and catch a ball from the third base and put it in the bucket. Okay, we do that for a while, but when a whistle blows, as soon as the whistle blows, everybody's on the infield to their position, and we're running either a first, third, or a bunt defense as fast as we can. Then you blow the whistle, you go right back to what you were doing, and it's just called a quick change practice. It's just stolen from football coaches who like to do that all the time. They'll blow a whistle in the middle of a practice and go to a special teams or a goal line or something like that, and that's all we're trying to do. This is the best thing we do. Okay, this is our process game and process BP game. Okay, if you want to teach guys how to play the game the right way, this is it. Okay, and I'm not going to waste your time and go down through here and read every one of them, but it gives a point value to every single thing that matters to us in a game. Okay, and at the end of the game, the score is, say you're doing an inter squad, the score may be 140 to 138. All right, well, we've totaled it all up through, things like, are they playing hard and playing with lots of energy? Are they on and off the field the right way? And you go on down through there, and all you got to do is, if there's something else that matters to you, you just add in whatever it is that matters to you and you go with it. Okay, but they will, when they see that it has value to you, okay, that it becomes all of a sudden that matters. It's something that matters to them. Okay, and so that is something that we're trying to do. We play this game either in an inter squad or in a BP game with a coach just throwing batting practice 3 to 4 times a week when we're not playing, when we're not actually in a game. This is just it's a standard thing for us to do, and it's been a great thing for our program. All right, defensive BP. This is our best batting practice. I wanted to show this to you real quick. So we chart it. You can see the scoring for it at the bottom, but basically you're going to get 2 rounds on defense, playing a live defense, 1 round hitting on the field, and 1 round base running. And you got every one of these things, you get a point for doing it right. All right, and we play every ball out live on the field. Okay, guy's going to hit it. We play it out live. He gets 2 swings. On the second swing, he's coming out of the cage, running it out live, and we're still playing everything out live on defense. It is exhausting, extremely tiring drill, but it's also one of the ones that gives us the most possible bang for our buck in terms of we're going to get out there and play as many live drills as we can. Okay, so those are, I think that's everything I've got to show you on a practice plan and some things to some specific drills. And I tried to run through some of those pretty quick to give Chuck time. But the most important thing to me, take the global concept of what do we need to get better, take the global concept of some cultural values, some core values you're trying to teach. If you teach those every day, then A, you're getting your team better, but B, you're making the people better that are in your program. And if we look at it if you're looking at this thing the right way as a coach, that's the most important thing, is get the people better in the program, then worry about the rest of it as you go. So I know we're going to get into some more practice plan questions as we go here, but Chuck, I think I went a little bit over, man. You didn't fall asleep over there, I hope.
You're good. You're good. We'll get to Chuck in a second. I got a couple questions here.
Okay. All right. Let's go, Scott.
What I like about that is the fact that, like, we talk to coaches all the time here, is having a philosophy on what matters to you. Because
yes,
with the young coaches around here, if you don't define what matters, then it always falls back on winning and losing. And if it always falls back on winning and losing, then you're going to be deemed an unsuccessful coach when you don't win, when you in reality could have been the best coach those kids ever had and developed them. And they played better than they ever did. So we talk about that a lot. So 3 quick questions I got for you. One is, I was going to let you reference the zoo to the jungle.
Okay.
I'm guessing that obviously batting practice like this that's up on the screen right now that I'm looking at is the way to get, is that bridge from zoo to the jungle.
100%. Yeah. And so first, let me make sure the zoo and jungle is stolen from Jeff Sherman, and he will absolutely try to cut my head off if I don't give him credit for that. Okay. Now I'm also sure he stole it from somebody else in Texas. So that's, but that's neither here nor there really. But basically, yeah, zoo is a controlled environment. If you think about it, you go to the zoo and look at the animals, you're not going to die in the zoo unless something crazy happens. You go to the jungle, there's no telling what could happen. Well, in this right here, you're exactly right. We would do the kind of zoo focused, hey, let's do all these infield breakdown drills and all these things. And then now we're much closer to a jungle feel with a defensive BP like this, where it's all live and on the fly. And that's the whole team. They're all out there. So if you aren't good, you might have just lost your spot to somebody else because you weren't very good that day. And there it is, right? That's the jungle happening to you.
So there's a really quick one. When you said you spend 6 weeks on a velocity program, what does that entail for you guys?
A whole lot of we do a lot of the plow care and well, we do plow care to get loose every day, but a lot of overload underload training we do running guns and that sort of thing, but we do some different there's a max long toss in that week, there's a velo day in that week, and then there's some other pretty intense strength training and throwing. So it's 3 pretty hard throwing days, although really one max throwing day, and then some other stuff involved in there as well. Is that kind of what you're asking for?
Yeah, and, well, it's leading into it. A lot of the problems people have with weighted ball training, it's like strength training, right? Is once the season starts, they stop. And once they stop, things they regress back to the mean. So yeah, do you guys maintain as the season goes, or is the season so game oriented because you guys are so loaded in your schedule? Like, how do you manage that?
No, I mean it's so I think anybody tells you they've got a 7-day plan, they follow exactly to the T in the season, I would question if that's really true. But I think the governing principles of it are important, and that's so we have it. You got your day that, say you're a starter, you have your day that you throw. Right, there's going to be another velo day in there at some point, and I'm one of those guys that has it different for different guys, but it could be a day 2, a day 3, or a day 4. It's kind of up to the guy and how he feels. We've already practiced it though, in the fall or in that velo time. Like that's a great time to start practicing, building their routine in. But yeah, we have some sort of weighted a lot of time during the season. I mean, if you think about it. Very rarely are you throwing a perfectly 5-ounce weighted ball anyways. Most of the time it's a little heavier or a little lighter just based on what the ball's been through, what it's hit and what it's rolled across. So I'm not much on just shutting down velocity training in season. We have one big long toss and one velo between starts.
I think it's important. I wanted you to say it for the crew here because I think it's important just because you listen to Jaeger and he loves his 7-day preparation, but he talks about 6 to 8 weeks to get prepped before you even touch a mound. Now you got all those motor sleeves and stuff like that. They talk about the same stuff. So I think it's important for the crew in this room to hear that you outlined 6 weeks of long toss before you even got to the 6 weeks of velocity program. And that had nothing to do with those kids touching a mound. It's the preparation of the chronic workload that you're building up in these kids so they can get to the season. Whereas where we see the injuries obviously is I take my 2 weeks off and all of a sudden I got invited to a showcase and I got to be
That's
ready.
right.
Right. And
Yeah, the showcase culture. I mean, there's some simple rules for showcases, right? And one of them is this: if you throw 80 and you're slow, spend your money on a trainer, not on the showcase, because it's not going to go well for you, right? So the showcases are, around us, we're a little spoiled because there's a lot that comes to us and very near us, and I get that. But the prep's got to happen. And to me, it's really simple. You backdate it. You literally start, when's our first game? And start counting back from there. And then you can start working on, hey, when do we need to throw? And the amount of time you take off, that is different for different people. I get it. But you got to take advantage of the fact that you have plenty of time to build it up. Spring training is the way it is for a reason. That there's 6 weeks to build up in there for a reason. And most of those guys are taking 6 weeks prior to that.
And it's funny, even then is the biggest spike in injuries in the MLB is April. Like even those guys aren't even ready.
But, interestingly enough, most of those injuries, though, are obliques and, hips and hammies and things like that they stop doing so much strength training when they go there. And, they were really nice and hot coming in and strong coming in. They get down to spring training, and that day is so long in spring training, and they lose the weight room, and then, bam, they pop it. Or you got the other one who ate pizza and drank beer the whole time in the off season, then showed up trying to throw 92, and now his oblique is laying on the ground somewhere.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I wanted to bring up that weighted ball during the season is the preparation, right? And I don't want to get into the 80-mile-an-hour guys going to showcases. You're starting to scratch where I itch, and we're gonna go down. We're gonna go down a rabbit hole in a second. Last one, because again, I don't want to leave Chuck hanging. Is you talked a lot about again external focus, which is a big thing with motor learning now. It started with Woolforth, Korea does it with infielding now, JT McGuire does it with outfielding. Is the external focus. So how do you combine? This is kind of a loaded question. So, for instance, you've got your hitting drill, the square it up and switch. So you're switching bats. You've got your 3-plate drill. So it's all about adjustability. You get into motor learning, everything's about adjustability. They even talk about fundamentals aren't a thing. It's your ability to adjust within your movement scheme.
Yes.
So how do you balance stuff like that for instance, you talked about your infielders going through fundamentals. Is that more just we're going to go through I want you to use your forehand and we're going to lay back on the words, or using words? And the same thing as you talked about having meetings with a huddle technique, because sometimes watches a video. When I got to spend time at Vandy, as I asked Brownie, how much video do you use? And he goes, very little, because these kids are so cerebral. They'll think too much and they'll get away from the external focus. So how do you have that balance between those two things when, again, you seem very kind of the new age, the external focus, the motor learning is them grasping the adjustability of certain movements?
Yeah, so I think our general idea would be that we're going to try and educate them how their body works, and then show them when it's maybe not working the right way, whether it be hitting, pitching, whatever it might be, or not the right way, maybe not efficiently. That's the correct term for sure. But I think for me, a lot of it is location with where you're doing what we're doing, right? So we tell our guys, and I know I showed you a cage drill that was very competitive. Okay, and about adjustability, but that's also because we have to be inside on cold weather days. When we get really rolling, the cage is for working on your stuff, and the field is for competing. And it's really the same for those infielders doing their work and outfielders doing their work. We try to really have a mental switch of let's go over here on the outfield grass, and infielders, let's do all the little line drills that infielders do, or whatever it might be, or the throwing drills infielders do. And when you get on the field, it's about a stopwatch, and it's about when the ball's hit, having the ball at first base, but before the runner gets there, and whatever that stopwatch time might have been. And so that we do that in the cage on the field too, or in the BP on the field too, in the roll cage, where it is about contact. It's very little technique talk on the field for us. I know you have to sometimes, but even then, like I said, we're lucky we have 2 fields. That's our backfield that we do that, that we do that technique talk. Then on the field, a lot of the BPs there we are in there grilled, because that's what a game's about. A high school kid has to learn how to exist, wondering what who's in the stands watching, or knowing who's in the stands watching, who they think they're trying to impress, and get that out of their head and get them to do it the right way about competing. Who's in the stands is just as dangerous as what you're doing mechanically. Thinking about either one of those can ruin you. Right. And so we're trying to, that's, I guess, the biggest way is make it very location based about where we're doing what we're doing. And I think that builds that intrinsic thought in them of, all right, now I'm here. Like every time I'm on a field, it's go time, baby. Let's get it done. So,
cool. So
yeah.
I'm gonna stop there because like the next question is more of a lead-in question for Chuck, because I was gonna ask more like, again, the individual side when they're on their side, but that's exactly what we're gonna talk about. So it's a perfect segue. So if you could unshare your screen here so we can get to, that's awesome. So we'll get to Chuck. So Chuck's gonna talk to us about a little more of the individual development practice, which for this, again, this crew in this room, very, very important, just because we're all coming from Zoom sessions with our own team because we're not allowed to practice. And some of us in stage 2 will get a chance to practice soon. So we're going from an individual standpoint to a team setting. And with the day and age of what everyone's got an individual coach, or people see drive line this and whatever, it's all individual. How do you build that into your program? So Chuck, the floor is yours because it's a great topic for this crew. Got to unmute, Chuck.
You guys got me? We good?
There we go. We're good.
Can I take my 25 minutes and we just ask Adam some more questions? I would rather do that. I'm telling you, this guy's one of the best. Wow. I mean, the stuff he puts out is incredible. He's a true necktie, and I have learned so much from him over the last couple of months. We've spent some time together, and it's just really amazing. Guys, anything that I share today, I'll be happy to share with you. That is my email address, my phone number, and my Twitter handle. Anything that I put up, I'll be glad to share with you. So shoot me an email, send me a text, whatever. One of the things that I say every time I speak is my work is a collection of a lot of different people. I love Shepard Fairey. He was a guy that created the Obey brand, and I love his quote. It says, "My work is very much a melting pot of a lot of different influences." And I've spoke a lot and been on a lot of podcasts the last couple of weeks, and I've shown the slide almost every time. And the reason I do that is I want you to know that most of this stuff is not mine. It's borrowed, it's stolen. There's 2 or 3 things that I promise that I'm going to steal from Adam after listening to him tonight. So please know that. There's some guys on this call who I've stolen some stuff from, so know that. I think the second thing for us to think about during this time, and I think Scott mentioned it, is there's tremendous power in using the least amount of information to get a point across. And that's a great quote by one of my favorites. Rick Rubin is just amazing. If you don't know who he is, look him up. He's pretty incredible. But in this time of Zoom, and there's been a bit of a renaissance, I think, in the last couple of weeks with the pandemic, a baseball renaissance. That's what I told my wife, because we've been able to sit back and learn so much. And it has been overwhelming to me. This is 30 years, the 30th year to coach, and my 25th year as a head coach, and I am just blown away with this information. So I think it's important for us to remember that simple is still a good thing. And then I love this quote. I don't know if you guys know much about this guy right here, but this guy's name is Miyamoto Musashi. He was a Ronin samurai. He wrote a book, I think, called The 5 Rings. And the thing that I want to encourage you, especially the young guys on here, and you guys that are coaching younger teams, is do nothing which is of no use. And Adam touched on that for a minute. The things that Adam can do are different than the things that I can do. Some of the things that I'm able to do because of the resources that we have. Guys, it's a very good chance that when we start practice on January the 7th, it's going to be 53 degrees. And, when it's 30 here, we think it's cold, and you guys in the great white north are going out with tank tops on. So, understand that don't just do something because Adam did it, or like Adam said, he maybe can't do some of the things that Vanderbilt does. So I think it's really important for us to really focus on the things that matter. And I don't know that anything matters more than individual player development. And I think, the last couple of years I've heard this more. There's been more of a buzzword about IPDPs and directors of player development. And it's really a buzzword in our industry. But, guys, we've always had player development, right? I mean, when they first started baseball, over 100 years ago, we were developing players. So never forget that really player development is one thing. It's helping players become the very best version of themselves. And don't forget that. For us, it involves a lot of different things. We focus on 4 areas of development with our guys, and this kind of gives you an idea. Adam was talking about core covenants. These are our core covenants, but we focus on those 4 covenants as they manifest themselves in 4 areas of our players' life: academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually. So everything that we do is driven by those 4 core covenants as it relates to the 4 areas of growth with our players. So I think that's very important. And, Scott touched on that briefly. Adam talked about it a lot with his practices, that there's going to be a core value or a culture. Don't forget that, because we're trying to equip our guys for the next 50 years, not the next 4 or 5 years. So I think that's very important. But what I want to focus on with you here for our time tonight is how we develop our guys individually from an athletic perspective. I could talk about our Success Leaves Clues program, which is our player development program as it relates to their social life and their spiritual life. But what I want to dig into tonight is really what we do with our guys athletically. I want you to think about this for a minute. I love this quote by Jordan. If you guys watched The Last Dance, it was one of the best things that I've ever seen if you're a coach. And I think it was episode 3 or 4 that was just insane how good it was from a coach. If you haven't seen it, you need to. But Jordan said something in there that I really believe. There is no I in team, but there is an I in win. And I put that up there, guys, because I think if it can improve the individual, you can improve the team. And Adam touched on that briefly. Improving your team is critical, but if you can make your guys better individually, your team's going to get better. So I think that's one of the key reasons for individual player development. The other thing that I love, this is a saying that I saw at Michigan a couple of years ago when I went up there for a visit. They had this on the back of a T-shirt that said, if you are growing somewhere, you are going somewhere. So if you have a growth mindset in your program and you're encouraging intentional, holistic player development, and your guys are growing, they're always going to be going somewhere. Now, one of the things that we're dealing with right now in the world is racism. I mean, that's a topic right now that is very much on our brains. And I'm at a predominantly white school. But I've got some kids that probably have some views that I don't agree with racism. But instead of me just casting stones at them, what I'm trying to do is look at that as a growing opportunity, as an opportunity for me to teach. So as long as those guys are getting better and they're growing, I feel like we're going somewhere. So never forget that. One other thing that individual player development does, and this is very important, the benefits that you'll see from it. The first guy up there, the black and white photo, that is a left-handed pitcher. That's a kid that's going to Mississippi State. And what I'm going to show you in a minute with these individual player development plans that we've done, what we've seen is it's helped create more goals for our guys. This guy right here is an alpha. He loves to compete. He needs a goal. So 18 months ago, he ran a 7.660. He ran a 6.8 the other day in about 16 months. The reason I put that up there, our individual player development plan didn't do that. He did that. But he set a goal in his mind that I want to go from a 7.6 to a 7.4. He hit that goal. Then he set another goal. So these little micro goals are what motivated this kid, especially when we weren't in season. So I think individual player development really helps you create goals. I think the second thing it does is it creates competition. And I'm going to show you some of that in just a minute. But you can see our guys, that's on one of our Tough Fridays. That's a sandbag drill that they're doing, and that was part of that individual player development. And then I put McConaughey up there because I don't know if you guys saw this the other day. I think it was with John Gordon. McConaughey was talking about embarrassment. He was talking about, hey, you know what? One of the reasons that I was good at my craft is I didn't want to be embarrassed. And you know what? There's not anything wrong with embarrassment. And he goes into a little talk about we've acted like it's terrible to be embarrassed. Well, I got a kid, our shortstop. He's not an alpha. He is somewhat competitive, not like this kid up here on the left. But you know what he doesn't like to be? He doesn't like to be embarrassed. So he knows if he sets a goal over these next 4 weeks, he's going to, up his bench 10 pounds. He may not be the most competitive guy in the world, but when we post those new scores, he doesn't want to be embarrassed. So I think that's some things that you'll see through player development. Now, when we get into the plan itself, you can see this here. We've put this plan into 9 phases. In each sheet, this is not the best graphic in the world, but each sheet represents the fall, the season, and the summer. So that's why I put it up there like that. And what I want to do for the next few minutes is I want to kind of get into some of these phases. But each phase has a different emphasis and a different measurable. Okay, so it's important to remember that. So when I'm going to show you phase 1 in a minute, it's basically about strength and movement. We're not even picking up baseballs yet. We kind of slow cook our guys. And then eventually we'll get into skill development. And then eventually it starts getting into more hitting and fielding. And then we get into our team stuff. But that is what it looks like. And I'll be happy to send this to you guys. But the overall objective is to put a comprehensive player development plan together for our kids to promote growth individually. Okay. So that's basically what it looks like. It's 10 phases. There's 2 phases that are very much heavy in rest and recovery. And there's 8 phases where we're pretty active. Every kid's individual plan is put on a drive. So we have a Google Drive that is shared by our players. I just took a screenshot of it to show you. If you see the one up there that says baseball, that's shared by all of our teams. So all of our players, all of our coaching, our staff, we can all go in there and look at that. I actually have a director of player development. We have a guy who's our head junior high coach. He helps put together all our development stuff. But our kids can go to the drive. They can click up their drive, and their individual player development plan will be in there. We have video in there. I'll show you kind of what that looks like. This is our team drive. So we have our weightlifting program, our strength program for week 1 and 2 of the summer, our standards, words we use, anything that's commonly shared, we put in that drive. And then an individual player's drive would look like this. So this is our shortstop's drive folder. He can access that from his phone. It's got his individual plan in there. It's got some video that we had taken back in the fall that he can watch. So, and what we found our guys do is they take their phone and they have Google Drive on their phone. And when they go in the weight room, they can call up their weight program. So I'm not a super tech person, but this is very, very easy to do. It's very easy to set up. That's where they can go and access it. An individual plan, I'm going to show you phase 9. So phase 9 for us is the summer. So at the beginning of the summer, we tested, we got our baseline test. And when our guys go into the summer, we really are concentrating on specific things for them. So I'm going to show you a plan in a minute of what that looks like. But the particular emphasis is getting stronger. There's going to be a hitting component, a defensive skill work component, and for our pitchers, there's a pitching component. This is what an individual plan would look like, very much like this. This is phase 9. So up at the top, you can see the measurables. So we tested on May the 12th through the 14th, and you can see the things that we did. We ran a 30, we ran a 60, we broad jumped, we vertical jumped, we squatted, we benched, we pulled, and we pushed. Those are things that are easy to quantify. Those are measurables, okay? Those are easy. But then we do have some things that are subjective. We actually gave our guys a mental grade. We have a toughness grade, a body language grade. How do they use their breath? Are they mentally flexible? And what type of teammate they are. And so it would be me, their position coach, and this young man in a meeting. So we would sit down at the beginning of this phase, and we would grade the last phase, and we would put the measurables down. And then we would work on this together. It's collaborative, because he can go to the drive and get in Google Sheets. So what we did there is we put together a reading assignment. Our guys are reading a book over the off season. This particular kid, I believe, was maybe our shortstop. No, this was one of our pitcher outfielders. His 2 things were he was going to research his routine development, and he's trying to develop a changeup. So we actually gave them things to research. We gave them some toughness things, okay? Your objective is to continue to work on your mental flexibility. This was a kid that had very poor body language. So one of his goals was to try to improve his body language. So basically we give them an improvement objective and an action plan. And then over to the far right, you can see some measurables. So his goal is to run a 6.760, which honestly he already has. He ran that the other day in a showcase. So that's what that looks like, okay? I know a lot of you guys on the call, there's some high school coaches, and I think you have a dilemma of what to do in the summer. And I want to touch on that for a minute, because I think it's very important for player development. I hear a lot of people rail on daddy ball, the term daddy ball. And it always kind of irritates me a little bit, because I know what those guys mean, but I like daddy ball. I'm glad my dad coached me. If my dad didn't coach me, I wouldn't be playing baseball. So I'm never going to bang on those dads that are trying to do a good job. Some of them don't know a lot about what they're doing, and there's some bad travel guys out there. But I'm kind of tired of people bashing each other on Twitter. You know, I think Twitter should be bright, light, and polite. And if you can't do one of those three things, don't put it up there. It's embarrassing what I'm seeing out there right now. So we're not helping our game by doing that. So I want to make a little commercial here. You guys that are struggling, you high school coaches that are struggling with summer baseball, I've struggled with that some too. But here, let me tell you the model that I've gone to, and I'm telling you it absolutely works. I don't have summer team anymore. I'm the only person around that doesn't have summer baseball. We treat it just like we did in college. We send our guys out. When I was coaching in college, we'd have guys go to the Cape. We'd have guys go to the Northwoods League. We would help place them. And so that's what we started doing. I got more involved. We got guys that are playing in 5 different organizations this summer. And let me tell you why I do it. Number one, they're sick of hearing my voice. We can practice year-round down here. So we go hard. We go hard from August all the way through till May. And they're sick of hearing my voice. So I want them to hear somebody else's voice. I think the second reason, I want them to meet new people. I want them to have new experiences. And the third thing is, guys, I want them being around guys like Adam Moseley so they can bring in new ideas to my program. So I have found that my guys going off and playing in different programs has been a beautiful thing. But now what I have done is I've gotten more involved in the placement. I've helped get them placed. So this is part of our phase 9 is sending our guys out into summer baseball. And I would encourage you, instead of complaining about those guys, be a part of it. I know we got some travel guys on here, some showcase guys on here. My goal is to work with you guys because at the end of the day, most of us just want to make our players better. So that's my commercial for that. As we get back into the fall, this is what our phase 1 looks like, and I want to dig into this a little bit more. So you notice when we get back, we put the baseball down. Now, some of our guys are still throwing. Some of our guys are still hitting. But from a team organizational activity, we don't throw. Because what we're trying to do is kind of what Adam said. We're trying to start building the engine. Our guys are still going to throw. Most of our kids will throw year-round, but they're throwing on their own during this phase. But our emphasis is to make them better movers, to get stronger, just like Adam said, to build the engine, to start building some toughness. If you guys have seen me on these calls before, we do something on every Friday, 12 Fridays in the fall. We call Tough Fridays. I have a toughness coach. He is a fireman, a fire instructor, and he comes in every Friday and he puts our guys through these unbelievable workouts. I mean, it's crazy the stuff they do. We do a total body assessment, and then we do a hitting assessment. So we're starting to Adam talked about, I can't remember the term that he used, but he started talking about hitter sequencing, I think is what he said. And so we start to introduce some of that during that time period. The measurables that we're looking for through our fall foundation is we're looking at maxes, okay? We're setting some personal goals. When we get back at the beginning of this, they'll set some personal goals that they'll want to be at the end of 6 weeks. And then they'll set a movement goal, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So it may be a 60 time that they want to decrease. We do personal grading during this time. So they're going to grade themselves on their toughness. They're going to grade themselves on their ability to use their breath. So what we're starting to do is we're starting to teach the mental game. We just brought on a mental performance coach. He's a volunteer guy. He's one of my former players at South Alabama. He's going to meet with our guys via Zoom once a month. So we have a mental game curriculum. This is where we start introducing it to our guys. Our trainer does a shoulder and a hip assessment on our guys during this period. And then we get our hitting metrics like exit velo, our blast. We do have Rapsodo. So we start recording some of those things that allow us to set goals for phase 2. Some of the things that we do during this, this is what the phase 1 plan would look like, what we call fall foundation. So again, at the top, some of the same information, but you notice that some of the emphasis and some of the measurables begin to change. So we give a hip, a shoulder, a flexibility, and a core assessment from our trainer. We're looking at exit velocity, launch angle. We have a little thing we call around the world, their ability to manipulate the barrel with their swing. Can you hit a backside ground ball? Can you get to the bottom of a breaking ball? We do the hitting assessment, but we're still trying to build the toughness as well. So that's what phase 1 would look like of our IPDP. Again, at the end of the summer, this will be on the Google Drive. The kid will be able to go on there. We'll say, hey, look, we're going to have a meeting in a week. I need you to start filling some of this out. Let's talk a little bit about it. And it's a totally collaborative effort. These are some of the things that we do in the fall that I just talked about. So Up at the top left, this is some of our movement work. Now you can see we haven't really started our full-scale practice because we don't have practice uniforms yet. You can tell that we don't dress alike in the fall because they haven't earned it yet. So they're still kind of working out on their own. So you can see that, that's the fall by what they're wearing. But if you guys haven't bought Zach DeCant's Movement Over Max's book, I highly recommend it. It is made, our average 60 time is went down about 2.4 seconds in the last, 18 to 20 months that we started using this stuff. It is amazing. And one of the things that Adam talked about, if you create a better mover, you're going to have a better pitcher. You're going to have a better thrower. You're going to have a better infielder. You're going to have a better hitter if you can create better movement. That's an example of one of the things that we did. Obviously, the weight room is really big for us. I'm just like Adam. There's 5 exercises we're going to do in the weight room. We're going to push. We're going to pull. We're going to squat. We're going to hip hinge, and we're going to core. We do that every time we lift. We lift 3 days a week. Now, there may be a heavier emphasis on lower body one day than upper body, but our workout, every time we lift, we're going to push, pull, squat, hip hinge, and core. So you can see, and I'm a big front squat guy too. I have gotten away from back squats because I think for our age, it's so much easier to teach a front squat, and I think they do it better, and I think they get in a better athletic position. And then down at the bottom left, you can see that was one of our toughness training days. That is one of the hardest things I've ever done. Dirk, I thought I was going to get fired this particular day because it was 104 degrees with 106% humidity in Mississippi, and we did this crazy drill, and I thought 2 of our guys were going to die that particular day, and we made it through it. That was week 3 of our Toughness Fridays, and one of our seniors really hit the wall that day and really showed his tail, and it was very, very embarrassing. But that kid won week 12. He won week 12, which there was a tremendous amount of toughness growth. And then up at the top right, that's just some of our hitting assessment stuff that we do. So that would be some of the stuff that we would do during phase 1, just to kind of give you an idea about that. As we get into phase 2, and I'm not going to go through all 10 phases, but as we go into phase 2, you can start to see the shift. We go from fall foundation, which is basically building strength, enhancing movement. Now we're starting to get into more skill work. We're still doing movement, strength, toughness, but now we're starting our throwing program, which we have a throwing progression that we do. It's a 5-day-a-week program. We throw every day. There's 2 pretty heavy long toss days that are built in. We're starting to introduce our hitting. We're starting to introduce bunting, our defensive skill work. We usually do that about 2 days a week. And then our guys will start building up that base, and we'll actually throw bullpens. Our guys will throw 3 bullpens before Thanksgiving. We ramp down during Thanksgiving. The week after Thanksgiving, we do our 2-week off ramp. And then when we come back after Thanksgiving, we do a 7-day mini camp, very much like an NFL mini camp, where we start ramping them back up. And we don't stop throwing. We throw over Christmas break. We throw bullpens when we come back on day 1, which is really week 7 or 8 in our throwing progression. So this kind of gives you an idea of what phase 2 would look like. That would be our second set of the fall. It's an 8-week program. And you notice our measurables start to change. We start looking for distance gain. We start looking for velo gains. I am 100% with Adam. Things that get measured get managed. If you want to see improvement, put a gun on it, put a stopwatch on it, give a kid a goal, because Adam is 100% correct. If you tell a kid, I think one of the biggest keys to being able to throw 85 or 90 is intent. Because I've had kids that say, you know what, I'm going to throw 90. And I would have told you there's no way they're going to throw 90. But because they think they're going to throw 90, they figure out how to get to 90. It's incredible what the power of the brain will do. But I'll show you a little bit about what we do during that phase 2. I'm going to turn this right here is a drill that I love. This would be a drill that we would do if a guy has bad body posture when he throws. I stole this from George Whitfield, the quarterback guru. The PVC really aligns your body and helps you get in a great posture. That's a great drill. And then you can see another thing we're doing here. This is a drill that a lot of you guys have seen Kai do. We've been doing something like this for 25 years, but it's just a redirection drill, just working on glove play. You can kind of see one of the things we do there. And then over to the right is our throwing progression. I've put this out a lot on Twitter, but we have cataloged every single throw an infielder makes, and it's a part of what we call our everyday warm-up. So we do it every day. So our guys will go out to whatever distance they're going to that day. We put cones out just so they can see, 60, 90, 120, 180, whatever. We don't have a set distance. You're going to throw – every day is different for every kid. I'm kind of like Adam. I'll let them go. You know, if you feel good today, feed it. If you don't – and one of the things I think we're going to do is we're going to make them rate their arm every day. Tell if it's a 1 through 10. I may have gotten that from Adam. I can't remember, but I thought that was a great idea. But once we go out and we throw, they're going to come back in and they do positional stuff. So they may make 1 throw or 2 throws, but they're going to do a full arm fake, lead base. They're going to do a hip pop. They're going to do a relay throw. So we actually have cataloged every throw, and we do that as part of our warm-up. And I think might be the best thing that we do, guys, because here's my thing. What's the most important thing we do? If you say, Chuck, you got 30 minutes to practice, I'm going to tell you I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to move, and I'm going to play catch. That's me. Now, you referenced Jeff Sherman. If you ask Jeff that question, Jeff's probably going to hit for 30 minutes. But for us, we're going to play catch. But think about how many of you guys, when you tell your guys, go get loose, and they go throw, right? And the most important thing we do, we don't teach it. That doesn't happen in our program. Where I get pissed at our coaches is when they don't teach playing catch. So this is very important to us. So that fall is where we're teaching that throwing progression, how we're going to throw, how we're going to play catch. So this would be some of the things that we would do in phase 2. You can see that again. And then once we get past phase 2 and we get into the spring, then it starts becoming more about our practice and our games. And obviously the emphasis begins to change. The measurables begin to change. You can kind of see that our practice changes now. It's more about team stuff. The bottom left, we're implementing some base running, some bunting drills during BP. And so basically for us, our in-season phases, we have preseason practice, pre-conference, which is 5 weeks, a conference schedule, which is 5 weeks, and then a postseason, which is 5 weeks. And then we go to phase, I guess it's 8, which is a couple of weeks off, phase 9 into the summer, and then we started back over again. So I hope what I did there was just kind of give you guys a glimpse of what our individual player development plan looks like. There's a lot of work and those Google forms, and you don't need all that. What you really got to do is find something that's very intentional and unique to that particular player and give them goals to hit. And it's amazing what your guys will do.
That's awesome. So question for you, and I think it's pretty self-evident, is kind of my theory on all this stuff is, it's funny, you mentioned the Movement Over Max's book, coming from strength training, is I think it's important for the coaches in here to understand how important planning is. A lot of them do these coaches clinics and stuff, and there's a lot of planning that goes into it. But the word that's always used with strength training is periodization. Is I can't get to power if I don't have hypertrophy and recruit the muscle fiber in the first place to get to strength, to get to power. Is skill development is the same thing. Is you're talking the exact same thing. Is I'm periodizing the entire season. That's what I'm trying to accomplish. Yep. And that's exactly 100%. What you seem to be trying to accomplish. Am I wrong there?
No, 100%. You know, one of the things that people say, and I always get tickled, they say, your team, we've played well late. Your team peaks at the right time. And I'm like, no, we're just getting better every day. We're just trying to get better every day. So obviously we're getting better every day. We should be at our best at the end. You know, one of the things that we did, Scott, and I encourage you guys to do this, and people think I'm crazy when I say this. One of our football coaches thinks I'm nuts, but when we come back in the fall, it doesn't matter if it's an older guy, we assume that they don't know anything about the weight room. And week 1, Scott, we will do body squats, push-ups, bird bath hip hinge, and pull-ups. We'll do 8 sets of 5 because the body doesn't break down at 5 reps. We'll do 8 sets of 5, but we'll do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with no weight. That's all we do. And then week 2, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, block 2, we'll still do the body weight. Or excuse me, we'll start introducing a light weight, and we'll still do body weight. We might do that for 2 weeks. And then we'll get to block 3, which that's where we begin to put weight on the bar, and we're lifting 3 days a week. So even the 2 days a week, we're still doing movement training. We're doing our speed work. I'm also a big believer in sprinting. If you want to get faster, sprint. It's amazing how many people don't sprint. If you want to sprint better, you better sprint. And that's something that we've learned. But absolutely periodization, slow cooking the athlete, because I think Adam and I had this conversation not too long ago. If I said, I got 4 weeks to get a guy ready to hit. Let's say we both have 4 weeks to get a guy ready to hit. My younger guys, I'm going to spend 2 weeks on movement. I'm not going to touch a bat. Group B is going to just start hitting. I promise you at week 3, if I can teach some better movement, posture, one of the things that you hear a lot about right now is tilt and posture. You're seeing a lot of work with the PVC. So many guys can't do that. It's amazing how many guys can't get in a fielding position. So I would rather spend more time creating better movers. And I think in week 3, I'm going to be farther along with the ability to move as a hitter than I would be if I just hit. And I mean, there's probably some guys in there who disagree with that, but I've seen it. I'm not telling you what I read in the book. I'm telling you what I've seen firsthand with our guys.
Well, it's funny because like you've got associations like the Cardinals and the Angels now. What they're starting to do is finding movement deficiencies in these guys, and the 15 minutes they spend before they hop into the cage are all individual movement-based warm-ups that are actually going to improve the swing. So they're going to the nth degree. Is you've got professional athletes who are a lot better than the kids that we've got, but at the same time is they've got movement issues, and it's the same thing. And these newer aged minor league coordinators are starting to organize this because they get better players because they get better movers.
And we got to be careful too. Though I remember when I first started, I go somewhere every fall. I've been doing it for about 20 years, and I'll never forget the first time, Scott, I went out and I saw a dynamic warm up. And I come back, and my dad's 80 years old now, and he played for a very successful junior college football coach down here in Mississippi. And I was telling my dad, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. They got this new stuff now. Nobody does static stretching. It's dynamic warm-up. It's active warm-up. My dad's the sweetest man in the world, kind of quiet. He said, yeah, son, that reminds me a lot of chopping wood and jumping jacks. I mean, they were doing dynamic warm-ups back then too. So this is not, a lot of this stuff is common sense. You move better, you're a better athlete. And look, what better thing in the world, Scott, for hip pins than climbing trees? There's not a better pull-up exercise than climbing a tree. So, this is stuff that we know, but I think we can identify it better now, and I think we're smarter with it. But I think at the same time, a lot of it's just common sense. If you're a better mover, you're going to be a better athlete, better hitter.
The couple things you said, and I'm not going to get into it but I want to emphasize it is, I like the fact that you track all the throws. I like the fact that you rank. 2 weeks ago, we had Fred Corral on from Missouri, and he has that exact ranking system, 1 through 10, and the guys rank it, which is awesome. And then being out there for catch play, like people underestimate. You get on your kids for making errors, but then you don't spend the time.
You don't spend the time.
To make sure they can throw. But I'm not going to get in. I digress. Sure. I'm not going to get into that. Is how this is a question more for the room. Is you guys are very involved in high school. High school is different here. It's different here. Is the club coaches and the community coaches are a little more like you. But how many of your guys, and this can be actually a question for both of you, really, is how many of your guys have individual coaches? Like they go out, you see all these guys going to drive line now, or they have these individual hitting coaches, individual pitching coaches. And do they ever hamper your program? Do you ever get kids that come in and say, hey, I'm a Tom House guy, or hey, I was a Woolforth guy, and hey, I'm a so-and-so guy, and this is what I do? Because when I talk to like the college pitching coaches, they'll always say that we offer the buffet. Is I have to know every little thing about the recruit I bring in. He might be a House guy, a Woolforth guy, a driveline guy, so I better know what the hell makes him tick, right? Because I want to keep him where he's at. Do you guys get a lot of that?
Go ahead,
you or me?
Go ahead, Adam, you answer first, then I'll jump in. Go ahead.
All right. So first of all, it's a little bit of a loaded question on who's looking, who's watching, but I would say this. I think you need to know how you coach. You need to know what works best for you, and it's kind of incumbent on you to I know the people in the area that kind of teach it the way that would work for you, right? That doesn't mean other people are teaching it wrong, but at the same time, they're coming to play for you at your place. So you're setting them up for failure if they're doing something that you don't necessarily like. Just to oversimplify it, you got the guys who used to teach A to C and swing down on the ball, and that's all you do. And then other people teach, maybe swing up on the ball, like a swing plane type of a swing. It's super oversimplified, but if you really believe in one or the other, then that kid may not have a lot of success in your program. We have a lot of people around us that teach a lot of baseball, and I don't try to fight it. I try to kind of funnel them towards people I think will help them have success. But inevitably, most of the guys who do are exactly what you talked about, Scott. Most of those instructors that really produce good players for us are ones who have some flexibility in their philosophy of teaching. And I think that's what you really try to hunt when you have these instructors. If you can find that, you've got a winner probably.
Go ahead, Chuck.
I think the way I look at it is those type of guys to me are like vitamins. If they can add and make our kids better, I'm 100% with it. The only caveat that we have is I ask our guys not to do pitching stuff between January and May. When we come back,
I agree.
We just I've gotten I've butted heads with a couple of guys down here about that. But to me, it's more about protecting the kid. It's more about a workload thing than it is me. I don't care who gets the credit. At the end of the day, I just want my kid to be the best that they can be. But the one difference between those guys in our area and here, I have to win games. They never have to win a game. And the second thing that I don't like about a lot of the guys around here, there are no constraints. There are no variables. It's in a 70 by 70 sterile box. There's no failure. And that's not how our game is played. And so that's where I butt heads with them a little bit. But as long as they're not doing it between January and May, we let them go. Now, if I got a guy who wants to go hit with his hitting dude at night on a Tuesday night, that's different. But Adam touched base on the rest thing. That's the new paradigm in sports, guys, is rest and recovery. Yep. And I'm just concerned about 16, 17-year-old kid when they're getting rest. If they're constantly doing stuff. I love banana pudding, but too much banana pudding is not a good thing, So I don't want to just beat them to death,
Yeah, and it's tough because, like you quoted in the first slide of your presentation, you're an amalgamation of all the great coaches that have come before you, but it'd be contradictory to rob that of a kid if he's finding success somewhere like
absolutely
his coaches, right? And he's trying to find the best way to kind of pick and choose what makes him work. Now, I can see what you're saying is we have, again, similar problems. Is you'll get the guy that's no, you do it my way, and then you start to butt heads, and they're not looking out what's best for the kid, like you said.
Absolutely.
So a question for you is again, we'll start with you, Chuck, here. Is the Jays fans on this call were excited last week with the draft that Austin Martin fell in our lap. And my question to you is, and I think I know the answer, but I want to hear what you guys have to say is, you got a guy like Martin who famously played everywhere but pitcher and catcher, famously. Is with how integrated your practices are and how planned out they are and they have goals and this, that, and the other, how do you foster a kid who's a multi-position kid who's going to be able to be utilized all over the field? How do you develop that?
Man, that's a great question. So we normally throw preseason, our 5-week period up from January till practice starts. We throw our bullpens pre-practice. So let's say I'm not real big on shortstop pitchers. It's just a lot of stress on an arm. I've had very few guys that have done that in my 25-year career, even in high school. Most of our guys that are pitcher position guys are going to be an outfielder or a corner. One of them's a second baseman. But we throw our bullpens pre-practice most of the time. So let's say Dawson Munzame, who's our third baseman, he's our number 2 pitcher. He may throw his bullpen on Tuesday. Monday, Wednesday, he may take ground balls during pre-practice. If it's a day where he doesn't need to throw a lot, we're going to take a bucket out there. He's going to fill the ground ball. He's going to fake his throw and drop the ball in the bucket. So we really are very careful about monitoring his throws because I think Adam would agree with this. Every throw counts, especially when you're going to be on the mound. So we kind of manage that by throwing bullpens pre-practice. Once the season starts, most of our guys throw bullpens on day 4. So that, that's about a 12 to 15-minute period. So we might put them in 2 periods during our BP rotation, and they may throw their day 4 pin during batting practice. But early in the year, it's really not a problem for us. The other thing that we do with dual guys is we make our infielders take ground balls in more than one place. So if you're a shortstop, you're going to take ground balls at short and third or short and second or first and third. So we make our guys – because here's another reason. I want my 3 best infielders on the infield. And your backup second baseman might be your best third baseman, but you're never going to be able to tell until you work them around. The other thing is if I'm playing third base – and I've worked some at second, I'm going to have a better idea how I want the ball fed to me on a double play. So we cross-train our guys a lot, and we just do that by moving around. So maybe the first 20 minutes we take ground balls, you might work it short, and then the last 10 you might go to third base to keep guys moving around. That's how we manage that.
That's cool. And one of the coolest things I ever saw was John Cohn, who's now the AD at Mississippi State. When he was Mississippi State, the end of their BP, they bring up this massive machine on the ground. and all 6 infielders took all trouble spot ground balls at every position. Like, doesn't
We
matter.
do the same thing. We use it with a hack attack. We'll flip a hack. That's how we take our ground balls. Sometimes you get 2 of them going. That's the best way to take. So better than the fungo. We've got a couple of them, and it's unbelievable. But yeah, that's what we do. Yep.
You also create spin on them, right? Like you watch Kai Kree and stuff. He talks about the certain spin, certain balls that go to certain spots. Adam, what do you think? What's your take on this?
Well, first I do have to respectfully disagree. You got the second best hitter in the draft. Justin Foscue is the best. He played for me, so he was the 14th pick, and the Rangers are going to – yeah, Austin Martin's really freaking good. So I'm pretty similar to Chuck. Like we do all our pitching work ahead of time if we can. I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule, because if it's a closer, and I'm like Chuck too with the shortstop deal, we don't have that. But the one time the shortstop does pitch is the closer. And but the deal is, if he's going to close, well, then let's have him throw at the end of practice, because that's what he's going to throw at the end of a game. So throw at the end of practice when you're gassed anyways. But we have all our infielders take ground balls at all what we would call the skill spots. Second base, shortstop, and third. I know. Listen, I'm left-handed, so I played first. But let's be honest, that the average first baseman is not necessarily the athlete that those other 3 are. So we have them all take them there, and I'm telling you, you never know when that sneaks up on you. To give you an example, we won the state championship 2 years ago, and 2 days before our state championship series started, our starting third baseman got hit on the hand. And broke some bones in his hand, and he was not going to be able to play. And we decided who was playing third base on the bus on the way to the state championship game. When we decided, we're like, well, gosh, they've all been the same the past 2 days in practice. Who's been the best all year? And that's what we went to. Was that we've seen them kind of do stuff at all different places. So I agree with that. You play all the spots, and I think if you've built a good athlete, and all you're worried about is, the little intricacies of playing that position, you're still going to be in good shape. You may lose out on a couple, bang bang plays here and there, but they can play through it pretty easily if you've built a good athlete with what you're doing.
I like what both of you have said about the shortstop pitcher. I think it was research. I think it was Central Michigan and Driveline did one where they basically found a bullet's a bullet. Doesn't matter where you're throwing it.
That's it.
Mound, or the torque on the elbow is exactly the same thing. To
Absolutely.
be able to monitor that. Now, how would you monitor? Do you guys have ways? Because make this really quick. Just a one-shot answer is, because you talked about multiple infield positions. What about a kid who plays infield and outfield?
How do we monitor throws?
How do you, like, for instance, I would imagine you said your favorite drill is the outfield drill where they hit off the tee. That's probably a time where you could probably get that outfielder into the infield and give him reps there. But how would you monitor getting them reps both places? A little easier with the infielder. How does it? Because we got guys on the call that they got kids playing all over the place. So.
Yeah, sure. No, we have. If we're when we're dealing with, we call them dual position guys. Infield, outfield. We try to first base it on what do we think they're most likely to play in the game, and we try to go 2-to-1 in that. And if they're literally in terms of practice. 2 in their primary, 1 in their secondary. And then if they are literally 50-50, then that's what we do with practice time. And it's not exact science, but it's close.
One of the things that we do, and that's basically the same approach we have, but I'll take it one step further. The most important thing an outfielder gets is balls off the bat. So we make sure that we're very intentional. If we were to have a guy that was a dual guy, that we get him in an outfield during one of our BP periods where we got guys that are going to hit fly balls. So if he's a right fielder, first baseman, and he's taking this round of BP, this period of BP in right field, I want to make sure I have 3 or 4 left-handers that are going to get him some balls so we can get some work. So that we're pretty intentional about that. But I think the biggest thing is how you set your practice up. In terms of throws, our outfielders don't throw a lot unless we're doing an outfield drill, so that doesn't really matter for us. I think we have 2 guys that do both. I'm just very intentional about when I get them in the outfield during BP that they're out there when guys are actually hitting balls.
That's great stuff. I got one more question, but I think it's going to be a long one. That's why I'm saying it's going to be the last one. Is we talked about this on the pre-call. Is we've got a lot of people in here. Is they're listening to your talk. It's awesome, but you're listening how you got 5 coaches. We get guys up at the best ever. I think my favorite was, I'm not going to mention who it was, was a catching instructor, and he was absolutely phenomenal. But then the second he put up the first drill with 6 machines firing, it's like he lost everybody in the room. So we'll start with you, Adam, is resources. How can you make a practice plan with limited resources? That could be equipment, but more often than not, the people in the room, coaches. So, and I'll be really specific with you, is that the practice plan that you had up with the scoring, where you have the tracking sheets, which are awesome. How do you do that with limited resources? Because I think the accountability there is so important for these kids to transfer, like you would say, from the zoo to the jungle. And again, I'm giving you all credit for that. I'm going to tell everybody. Is how would you go?
Sherm didn't invent that. I did.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There you go. There you go. All right. So first, I would say, Scott, like I tell a story about. So, well, let me walk it back. RPOs do a lot of the charting for what we do. We have pitcher onlys. You know, if you're on a team that is, I guess, doesn't have that, but has, I mean, you just got to find, it can be, you teach anybody to do a chart, right? But if we're just keeping our pitcher onlys to do these charts, I tell a story about a player that I knew about. I obviously won't reference his name, but he was in AAA. And you know, what's the big league or the minor league model is you pitch one day, and then the next day you sit in the bleachers and you chart the velocities of the guy who's throwing, right? And he got caught lying. And he was not in AAA much longer. As a matter of fact, he wasn't in baseball much longer. And so try to do that to get some honesty out of him. But it's like an election. There's a standard deviation in there, right? Of like, you know, hey, we're going to miss one way or the other a little bit, but I still haven't had the grand conspiracy to get the one kid, you know, chart it the right way or in favor of one kid. It just hasn't existed. But when it comes to that, I think you also have to cut down on maybe what you're charting at that point, because if you chart too much, you know, and you're the only one looking at it, that can be a problem as well. Or you're the only one compiling it. You can run into some problems. That's the one thing about the data that people have to understand. Anytime you start worrying about taking care of data and taking this stuff in, and you say you got a Rapsodo or you've got whatever it might be, and it's all this information. Well, to interpret it and compile all the stuff together can take a long time. So you better decide what is of value to you. And I think that's a big thing. And if you're at limited resources, whatever those might be, I know some of the best coaches in the country that practice in the parking lot. Okay. You have to make where you are the best possible place it can be. There is no sympathy for many. I have probably the best facilities in Alabama. I have no problem arguing that, but I haven't always worked here. I've worked in some small places where every baseball matters, right? And so you have to, it is about what you set as your value structure. And, you know, one of Chuck and I's really good friends is one of the ones who practices in the parking lot. And they love it. The kids love it. You could get find some dimple balls and hit ground balls at them in the parking lot. You know what'll never happen to you on a big field? There's never a ball that's going between your legs under your glove, because you've learned how to get down on the ball, or else you're taking one in a bad spot pretty quick. So I do think when it comes to resources, I get there's limited people. So they just limit what you're charting to the most important things and teach those people. I know Chuck's had some good success getting like managers out of his school and stuff like that. Before he goes, just one more thing I would say is that is a area that is growing so much. So if you're a high school coach and you teach a kid how to just take some data and interpret it, you may have gotten that guy a job in the future because he's proven he can do that. And it is taking off. And if there's one place that major league people and college people are thinking outside the box, it's who they are hiring in the data spots. And all you got to do is be a math guy and a numbers guy, and you got a chance to do all you want with that. So go pull that. I mean, for lack of a better term, go pull the math nerd out of school and tell him, I'll give you a t-shirt, I'll give you a hat, I'll give you a jacket, and I'll feed you every day. And more than likely, you know, he wants to be a part of it, or she wants to be a part of it. And do not outlaw having girls around. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But I have 3 daughters, and if they can't be around my kids, and my kids can't be around here. So, all right, Chuck, go. What you got?
I'm a girl dad too, so I'll second that. I think first of all, Scott, and I got four answers to that question, and I think they're all very.
Hang on, you've got 4 answers.
I've got 4 answers.
Good
I've been
Lord.
thinking about this question.
Gosh.
First of all, find help. If you don't have enough help, find some help. So here's how you do it. My pitching, I have 8th through 12th grade. We have 11 staff members. Only 3 of us are paid. There's only 3 guys that are paid. 2 of those are full-time. 1 of them is more part-time. But what I did is my pitching coach is 72 years old. He's retired. And he tells me every day, this is the coolest thing ever. Like our kids treat him like a king. I have 2 student assistants. I have a guy who is actually our director of baseball operations. I'm talking about high school, and he does everything. He is the guy that Adam's talking about. He's the Rapsodo Blast. He's going to leave here and go to a college and get his master's, and somebody's going to hire him. But he's with me. He was with me all day today. He'll be with me first thing in the morning. He's involved in budget meetings. I'm taking this kid everywhere. He's a junior in college. He wants to be a coach. I got another kid who's student teaching who's coaching with us. And then I've got 5 guys that are local business people that volunteer. So go find some people to help you. Give them some gear, man. Treat them well. We had all the coaches over the house and cook hamburgers on Sunday night. I think the second thing is franchise your drills. I've coached places where there's only 2 coaches. So I've franchised my drills, and that's where that practice master came from, Scott, because I had a senior outfielder who had to run my outfield drills because I didn't have enough guys to do it. So I haven't always been here. The third thing, guys, is we practice 8th through 12th grade. The first 5 weeks we come back in January, we're 8th through 12th grade. Now, our 8th graders and a lot of our 9th graders, they don't hit. We only hit about 16 guys on the field, 14 guys on the field. They might not hit in the practice. They're going to do all of our defensive work, all of our base running, but you know what they are, and they don't really realize it. Don't tell them. They're charters. We chart every ground ball. We chart everything you can think of, bunts, and that's what they're doing. They're basically managers when it comes to the offensive part of the practice. But the parents love it because they're out there. They're learning our system. They're learning the pace and the rhythm of the practice. And when they come back as 9th graders, they've kind of had to pay some dues, but they also understand how we do things. And then I think the fourth thing is, if you don't have resources, man, find a way to get it done. FIO, figure it out. Like my first job at Freed Hardeman, y'all, we took socks. It's honest to God truth. Tube socks and athletic tape, and we made sock balls. And that's that's what we hit into the gym. And I kind of miss those days. Hey, my tennis coach at Freed Hardeman still doesn't know this. I stole about 250 tennis balls over the course of about 3 years because I would slip in there and get 2 or 3 of them. And if they hit one over the cotton picking fence, Scott, it was in my bucket. So, wiffle balls. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do just to figure out how to get it done. And I know everybody here is at a different spot. And, with data and technology, we've always had data, but don't ever stop trusting your eyes. Your eyes are still what the best indicator of what a ball did is ball flight. It's still the best thing. The ball will tell you what it did. If you hit a hard line drive, hey man, I don't care if it's 15 or 20 launch to if you hit that ball hard, I know you hit it hard. So to me, get some good help. Use your younger guys like managers, franchise your drills, and then be creative in how you, how you make stuff, I guess is what I'm saying. Adam gave me, we're wanting to buy some of those body blades. You know what Adam uses? PVC.
Dang
he
right.
went to Lowe's and got PVC, put some tape on. There's your body blade. Instead of spending $50, you're spending $4. So, I think there's a lot of ways. I'm sorry to ramble, but, man, that's what you can do right there.
I appreciate the 4 answers because I know Adam gave 3, so you had to one-up them. So
that's absolutely
the only
ridiculous.
time that'll ever happen,
That is.
No, I like because I see some of the faces on the call, and I know some of them, like for the younger kids, is they'll hear, "Oh, you recruit help," and then they think of some of those little overblown parents that I'm not asking them, but we all got older brothers, older sisters that you can get out and you can chart. And I like the idea of the franchising the drills, and again, finding out what you want to measure is have that philosophy and have that idea of what you measure and count in importance. And then back to Adam. It's funny, we had Matt Hobbs up last year at the Best Ever from Arkansas, and he was talking about he's all the tech whiz, but then he's the first one to admit, I got 6 student managers. And he goes, I come in and all the data is already compiled, and the guy that worked for me now with the Cubs is exactly what you're saying. So a message to all the older coaches in here, the 16 to 18 is I know of people in this province that are bringing kids out from their local university. in data management or whatever the heck they're doing that want to get a job in baseball. And that's exactly it, is they're compiling data for them. So I think that's an awesome message for the room. I'm going to turn it over to Dirk. I thank you guys a ton. This was a blast for me. It's a topic that I love, just practice planning. And I really, really enjoyed it. I wish we could keep going, but we're about an hour and 35 minutes in. So I'd be remiss, but thanks guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott. Hey, Adam, Chuck went up to you 4-3, but I just got off the phone with the tennis coach at Fried Hardeman, and he's sending an invoice to Chuck for $250.
You dang right.
I was at Adam's place the other day. I stole two buckets of balls from Adam's place. He hasn't figured it out yet. So.
I just don't tell people who I'm stealing from. That's all I do.
Hey, guys, lots of great gems tonight. Start with why, zoo to jungle, do nothing which is of no use, growth mindset, rest and recovery, and I can go on more and more. It's obvious why Hoover High School is one of the best baseball programs in Alabama and why Hartfield Academy is one of the best baseball programs in high school in Mississippi. Adam Moseley, Chuck Box, on behalf of Baseball Ontario, thank you very much. For those of you on the call who will be at the Best Ever Clinic in January, Chuck Box will be one of our coaches, one of our guests speaking on the main stage 3 times. And definitely, Adam, we are going to have you up here, probably not in 2021, but definitely we'll talk about 2022, having you up at our Best Ever Coaches Clinic. Guys, on behalf of Baseball Ontario, thank you very much. Scott Robinson, another great job as host tonight. To all our coaches, next Wednesday night, 8 p.m., will be our final Baseball Ontario Around the Horn. We are going to be taking a break from July through September, and we'll be back in October with a whole new round of coaches and a whole new round of Around the Horn webinars. So please join us next Wednesday night for our final Around the Horn. Once again, on behalf of Scott Robinson, Adam Moseley, Chuck Box, this is Dirk Drieberg on behalf of Baseball Ontario saying good night and stay safe.